Welcome to another question and answers session. I'm Coach Craig Rowe from Ozswoosh and Ozswoosh Academy, and this is part of my series which is called The Coach Approach. So not only is this a question and answer session, I'm sharing this as a podcast here on YouTube. I have 20 episodes of The Coach Approach which was pre-recorded, but I decided that I would embark on a little bit of a different strategy, which is to have a live stream here on YouTube. Now, whether you join me live or after the fact is of no concern to me. I do hope that you join me live if you know that this is on a regular basis. Then you're welcome to send me your questions that you may have. But most of the questions that I am sharing at the moment are actually questions asked on either Facebook and or they're being asked on Reddit. So what I'm doing is I'm collecting questions that are most commonly asked by both beginner players and beginner coaches and phys ed teachers. So if that sounds like you, then hopefully what I'm going to share with you today is some of those answers to the questions that most come up for people in that situation who are just starting out. So let's get into today's Q&A session. We'll start with the very first question, which is a simple one. It's, I've been practicing, and when I play with my friends, I have flow and I feel loose. But when it comes to real games, it feels like I forget everything that I've learned, and basically they're stiff and they're not as aware. So this is a question that came up in a previous question and answer session as well, a similar question, but I want to share something about this experience this individual's having that might help you better understand the experience if you're having it as well. So in my previous live stream, I actually suggested that breathing may help solve this problem. And the reason that is because it allows you to calm and deliver oxygen to your brain. But what's actually being experienced here is a flight and fight response. So our natural thing when we're in fight and flight response, or that mode, is that when we're in stressful situations, a lot of our normal functions actually shut down. So we go in this survival mode. And what happens is when you're anxious, or say when you're flustered or worried, then your body starts to get those nerves that you would experience as if you were being attacked by a bear, for example. So what you're experiencing here is that flight and fight response. And the difference is because your expectations are a lot higher when you're in a competitive environment as to, say, training and or just playing with friends. So while it is good that you're getting in that state of flow with friends when you're just mucking around or you're training, the game situation you're taking and treating differently. So what I would first start with, the solution here to this particular question, is try and manage your expectations around why you're on the floor here. If you're still starting out, this is an opportunity to learn and train still. So don't convince yourself that your game is any different to a training session or mucking around with friends, because in reality it's all basketball. So what you need to do is you need to manage one of two things here. You either say, I'm here to have fun, because you may well be a social player, and therefore if that's the case, then take the stress off the situation where you feel you have to win. Or if you're a competitive player, then maybe you're not being and competing at the same level when you are in that state of flow with your friends and or at training. So what you need to do is you need to apply whatever level of training you want in game. So basically train how you play is what you need to do to make yourself feel comfortable on the court during an actual game. So that would be my word of advice to this individual, is make sure you're training how you play and understand you're in a fight and flight response here and your body is shutting down a little bit. Breathing does actually help this. As I said in a previous video, make sure you're breathing through your nose and out through your mouth, because you'll deliver 20% more oxygen to your lungs if you breathe in through your nose, which is a huge problem that a lot of beginner basketball players actually have. So let's look at the next question. So should my shooting arm be outstretched and reaching for the sky? My basic question is, should my shooting shoulder be raised and arms outstretched after I shoot? I'm still in the early stages of learning how to shoot, so luckily my form isn't too set in stone yet. One question that I couldn't find an answer to was, should my shooting arm be pretty outstretched after I release the ball? If I do this, then my shooting shoulder is also raised and it feels like I'm trying to get my hand as tall as possible. And we'll just talk about this one. So you're trying to get this really good arc on your shot. So the Basketball ring is actually the width of two size 7 basketballs side by side. Now, a lot of people don't actually realize that. You can fit two size 7 basketballs side by side inside a hoop. So the arc is really important. So how you finish becomes really important because it's where your elbow finishes that's actually going to allow you to get the arc you need to get the ball in the hoop. So what is said to be the good arc of entry? So we're not talking about the arc of exit, like where you shoot the ball. We're talking about arc of entry here. So arc of entry is deemed to be between 45 and 55 degrees entry into the basket to give it the best chance of going in. So how do we actually do that? So how do you get the ball to drop in the hoop at that angle? Well, it's all about the elbow and where it finishes. And what you've alluded to here as a beginner player is actually correct, is you want to finish what we say is elbow above eyebrows. So you don't want the ball, your elbow too low because you're going to shoot flat. That's going to change the arc on your shot. So I like to say to athletes I work with is try and shoot rainbow, right? So shoot rainbows. So the way we do that is to finish elbow above eyebrow. So what you're doing is correct. I wouldn't change it. Just make sure you have a straight elbow and your finger points at the hoop. I do suggest people pinch their finger. Also mention that in another video here on the Ozswoosh channel. So hopefully that answers that question for you. Go to the next one. How long should I be when going downhill? Now, for those who don't understand basketball, this question might be a little bit confusing. What do you mean, how long should I be going downhill? What they're basically saying is how low should I get when driving or blowing by a player is, I guess, the sentiment of the question here. It sounds like a simple question, but it's a really good one. Because a lot of people, when they drive, that is, they dribble the ball to beat a player or they're accelerating towards the basket, they don't get overly low. So the short answer to this is if you're driving or blowing by a player, your goal is to actually get below their chest. So when you drive or you jab and you accelerate, you want to be lower than the chest of the person that you're being guarded by. So hopefully that answers that question. As simple as, and as confusing that might be to someone who's not used to basketball, because there's a bit of lingo in there, like what does going downhill mean? That just means accelerating towards the basket. They're not saying whether they're defended here, but I'm assuming that they're basically saying how low should they be when they pass their defender or to try and beat their defender. Short of it is we're trying to get below the chest of the person that we use the term blowing by or blow by. So hopefully that answers the question for that individual. The next question, release hand. When I'm releasing the ball, should my hand be relaxed or stiff, as in when I'm actually pushing or flicking the ball? Another question that's a common one from beginner athletes is how loose their wrist should be. Now, in basketball, I would recommend that you are relaxed. Much like driving a car, well, most young people won't know this experience, but you don't want stiff hands on the steering wheel. So we'll put it in that analogy as well, is shooting a ball or bouncing a ball in basketball, your wrist should be relatively loose. It's how we feel the shot. If it's too stiff, you're going to reduce some of the energy you need to make the shot at a great distance. So coming to trust your training is probably what I would say here. If you learn to relax and you learn to release the stress at your wrists as you lock and snap is what we say. So that's what you're describing there. So lock our elbow, snap our wrist. Is the wrist snap needs to be relatively loose. It's almost like it's a hinge like your elbow, and you don't want to have that too restrictive, nor do you want your elbow, because what you're going to do is you're going to be not capitalizing on the energy that comes from having a loose wrist. So you sort of want to be this loaded spring, but you don't want to be too tight when you shoot and or dribble the ball for that matter, because that's a common question and a common problem I see with athletes I work with. So great question. Hopefully that answers that one for you. I am using StreamYard software here. If you're wondering how I'm producing the live stream, then you can check out the link in the description and check out the software for free. And if you decide to buy it, I do earn a small commission from affiliate links as a StreamYard insider. Next question, help. How can I train to be a great point guard? I have a good shot from behind the arc and I can finish great, but I'm just not there when trying to drive to the basket and create plays. This one for me is actually a question about decision making more than anything else. If you've got a good degree of shooting skills, then that's going to hold you as, good stead as a combo guard. But technically what you've described here is a shooting guard, and you're saying you want to be a better point guard. So what you've highlighted, you've almost answered yourself, which is you've got to get better at handles and you've got to be better at beating individuals. But as a good point guard would know, if they're beating a player, it's often the second line of defense that they're focused on to make the assist. So they're trying to read the situation behind the initial play that they've made. So what they do is they make their move, they attack, they beat a player, and then once they're blown by their player, the extra defender comes across. So what they're really trying to do is identify three options here. First one being early help. So if the defender comes early, then you want to get rid of the ball early. You need to know who that defender coming to you, you need to know who they were guarding, because that's who you're looking for. The next thing is late help. That's if the defense comes late, then it'd be a late pass. So you want to pass that, late, but again, you're still looking at the defender. And then when it comes to scoring, the last solution or the last read is no help. So the help isn't there, then no pass, which basically means shoot the damn ball. So it's decision making that we're talking about here. But you need to be able to beat a player first. If you can't beat the player first, then you're probably just shooting the ball and or giving it up without making that assist that you're looking for. So understand that if you're a point guard and you're trying to make decisions, you've got to understand when you beat someone what that next line of defense might look like. The other thing is having court awareness will help you. So keep your eyes up. I always say look at the ring, see the court, because if you're central anywhere on the floor around the perimeter and you're looking at the ring, you can see everything in front of you. But if you're, say, on the wing and you look to the top, then you're going to lose sight of the corner. So I encourage my point guards to always be looking at the ring, but trying to use that peripheral vision to see where everyone is. So hopefully that helps you answer that question. On to the next one. Can anyone help me with fundamentals? Hey guys, I'm new to basketball and I want to know the fundamentals of basketball and I need video to understand. Can anyone send me a link? Now, I was biased on this one because Ozswoosh channel is all about helping athletes improve. So what I want to do is share with you what we have here on the channel just quickly, which is a whole heap of basketball fundamentals. So you can see basics for beginners there, and it's going to cover pretty much all the different things you would need to know to be a basketballer starting out. It's all the fundamentals, and there's footwork there, there's passing, there's drills that you can do with friends, there's drills you can do on your own. And interestingly, even though we're a channel for coaches and phys ed teachers, this is the content that we do provide for athletes, particularly those starting out who may not have access to a coach that's going to teach them this stuff. So if you want to learn what a runner is, if you want to learn what a floater is or a euro, and you want to understand the footwork, or say you want to understand the guarding distance that someone has, then that is what we share here. So I will share a link to that playlist after the stream in the description below if you're wanting to learn more about how to actually play, starting with the fundamentals. I'm a big believer that you never get bored with the basics. Not my quote, that's a Kobe Bryant quote. He said, never get bored with the basics, and it's the basics that will lay the foundations for you to becoming a really good basketball player. And sadly, I don't see a lot of that stuff getting taught, and I'm a coach educator. I can tell that a lot of that stuff that's in that playlist gets missed, and therefore it's not helping young athletes develop. So if you're looking for that, hopefully that'll help you. On to the next question. Tips, please. Hello, I'm in 8th grade and I want to be the best. What are some of the tips you would give me? I also learned that you're not supposed to do so many moves just like the NBA guys, but instead drive to the basket for a layup. If that's true, what's the point of all the moves like behind the back, crossover, etc.? Please help me. All right, so yes, it can look like a lot of players are dancing and messing around just by looking fancy on the court. But the reality is you do need all those. You need behind the back, you need through the legs, you need reverse pivot fakes, you need spin dribbles. All that stuff is like an arsenal of weapons. So I always talk to my athletes about this concept. If you like first-person shooters or driving games or just any computer game where you have that ability to get a load out or a load up, then this is what I think basketball's like. It's like you want to have as many skills in your arsenal of weapons to draw upon in the right moment to give you the best opportunity to beat the athletes that you're opposing, so your defenders. right? So you need all those moves, but you raise a really important question there, which is, when do I use them? So interestingly, a lot of players at a young age over dribble. So when do you drive? And this is what you're coming to here. This is the question. Driving is about getting the ball to a place that you can't pass it to, or attacking the basket. So using those moves are all change of direction moves. So they're designed to beat a player. Stutter step, inside out or onside dribble, hezzy, all those moves. The next phase of that move that you make, crossover, through the legs, behind the legs, whatever it might be, it needs to be explosive and is normally resulting in a blow-by against your defender. So rather than dancing back and forth and just putting the ball through your legs and not going anywhere, the real goal is to make a move to beat someone. All right. And that's what you're talking about here. And that's really important. You need to beat a player going downhill in the shortest amount of time, else you're just wasting time, particularly in the shot clock game. So if you're just dribbling through the legs, being inefficient with that ball in that moment, not going anywhere, your teammates will get frustrated and the clock will run down and you'll lose the opportunity to take a better shot or a good shot. So don't over dribble is what I'd say. Know that you dribble to where you can't pass it is the goal, and don't spend your dribble too early. And lastly, make sure if you are driving and doing these fancy moves that you're doing them to actually beat someone. Else you're just wasting clock and you're also not achieving the goal, which is getting the ball in the hoop, because you're dancing around with the opposition. So hopefully that helps answer that question for you. I'll just say g'day to Mark. G'day, mate. Hope you're well. Thanks for popping by and watching the live stream today. Don't forget, if you are watching and you have any questions, you're more than welcome to ask any questions in the comment section, or you can send me an email to info@ozswoosh.com and I can look at the email there, or you can just send me a message on Facebook if you're on the Better Basketball Facebook page. So hopefully that helped answer the question for that last individual there. Don't forget, you can also share your own thoughts and comments in the comment section below, either during the live stream or after the fact. So next question. Am I too small for a post-up game? I'm a small guard that wants to develop a post game. It'll give me a lot more options when driving to the basket when I'm cut off. So give some examples of players. I'm wondering if I'm too small. They're saying 13 years old, 5'1". Look, answer to this question at a young age is simple. You're 5'1" at age 13. You could end up being 6'10". So the answer is yes, absolutely work on your post game. As I would also suggest that taller players are working on their handles and their perimeter shooting. Today, the game has evolved to the point that we have highly skilled players at all sizes. So size is becoming less relevant and positions are becoming less, not relevant, but now players are being able to play in various spots on the floor and rotated through a number of positions. So we all may say that basketball's become somewhat positionless. So the answer to that is if you've got a post game and you're matching up against someone of roughly your height, maybe a little bit bigger and or ability, or you have more skills than that individual that's of a similar height, then absolutely you should be able to dominate that individual in the post, and you should as a team be able to identify that. So the short of it is, don't limit yourself, particularly at age 13. You need to be working on all aspects of the game. You need to be focusing on the footwork in the post so you can post up people of your rough height and or ability. So definitely work on post game. All right, next question. I need help with mental game and anxiousness. I'm a guard, 5'8", and I've been training basketball for, it says about years, I don't know how many years. I've been on teams and stuff, but I don't know why I struggle being anxious sometimes with the ball. I train so much, then when it comes to the game, they mess up or they're worried about messing up. Pause the video later if you want to read the rest of that. But the sentiment is that they are struggling and they're putting pressure on themselves. So when you exert pressure, I alluded this to in an earlier question here in this live stream, is that you're actually in fight or flight mode. And also your oxygen levels are probably low because of that. So you're not able to think straight. So what you need to do is identify that every play needs to be taken in and of itself. So what we talk about in basketball is what we call this next play mindset, right? And what that is that you can't get back the mistakes you made, but you can certainly focus on the next play. So if you do make a mistake, some players dwell on the mistake and they will stay mentally on what happened 2 or 3 possessions ago. The problem is the game does not have time to stand still while you're assessing that. So the best time to assess that stuff is at the end of the game. Work out what you did wrong and then improve the next game. So every time you step on the floor, you want to be better is the goal. So how's a simple way that might help you manage this is something I did as a young guy, because this sounds like me when I was your age. I don't know how old you are, but potentially younger than me, that's for sure. I used to wear a rubber band, one of the skin tone type elastic bands on my wrist, and I share this with athletes that experience a similar thing to help me focus on the next play, because I would actually be stuck in a moment when I made a mistake. I'd be really hard on myself. And that's not a bad thing. The fact that you're concerned about it tells me you're worried about being a better player. But it doesn't help you in game to be taken out of the play or the next play because you're worried about the last one. So how do we solve that? Sports psychology suggests that triggering or anchoring is a really good way to move forward for the next play. So for a period of time, almost a year, no one ever noticed this, by the way. Referees and teammates never noticed I was wearing a rubber band on my wrist, because I know that because no one ever asked what I was doing or why. But I used to flick the rubber band in game if I felt I made a mistake. Sometimes you are harder on yourself than your teammates or coach, because everyone's making mistakes and you think everyone's looking at you, but the reality is no one is, but you're hard on yourself. So what happens is you can flick that rubber band, and when it flicks, it's not so much a punishment or a penalty as a trigger to say, move on, you can't get that play back, move on to the next play. So I would just flick the rubber band and move on, next play mindset. So hopefully that helps you solve that problem for you, and just understand you're in fight or flight mode. So breathing as well. I'm going to come back to the importance of breathing in our sport, particularly for beginners. Go on to the next question. I think this is our last question. Afraid to be the ball hog. We haven't played a game against other teams in about 6 months. Those 6 months is when I became a good player. Not stressed anymore, that's good. And they thought all that would translate into games. But when they played an actual game, they were too stressed and they were too afraid of being a ball hog with the team. So they didn't really shoot the ball. And it's asking, when is a point guard considered a ball hog, and when is it actually supposed to score? So when is a point guard considered a ball hog? That's a really interesting question, because I think the best point guards, particularly the ones that I've worked with, focus on making their teammates better first and making their teammates get the shot. So they're looking at the assists. They're looking at how can I get everyone involved. If you're a point guard, that is absolutely your job. But the downside to that is you then say, well, where do my points come from? When do I contribute? So this is really, again, a lot of this is decision making. So I already talked about early help, early pass, late help, late pass, no pass, when you beat someone downhill. We talked about downhill before. And you've got that second line of defense. That's where you're going to find whether you're going to assist or score. But you already have good skills and the ability to shoot. So I would suggest that you shoot when's needed. So for example, if the scoreboard isn't ticking over and it's not, there's like not much action happening, and you're not getting your teammates, or they're overplayed, or they're focusing on the best shooter on the floor, and you're in a bit of a pickle, meaning as a team, then that might be the best time for you to step up if you have the ability to switch it on. Because my experience with some of the best point guards I've worked with, they are highly skilled and they have the ability to score at will if they choose to, because they have the ball handling to get themselves to the basket. But there's a degree of unselfishness that goes with being that leader on the team that's going to get everyone on the same page, playing together. But what I also know about great point guards is they know when to flick the switch and turn their game on when it's needed. So my suggestion to you is shoot when it's needed. All right. Now, a strategy is to make sure it's in the right hands at the right time. And that is your job as a point guard. And sometimes the right hands at the right time is actually you. So the old adage is, always look for a better shot, but sometimes you may well be the best shot. So I think that might well be the end. Hopefully you've got something out of this that you can help with your athletes, and or if you're a beginner player, then hopefully something I've shared here. Of course, my mission here, I've listed on screen. I have 2 products as Ozswoosh, the first one being Ozswoosh Academy, located north of Brisbane, where I help athletes improve. And the second one is Ozswoosh Education. And the YouTube channel here is an extension of that Ozswoosh Education side of what I do. My mission is to help beginner coaches and phys ed teachers help their athletes improve. That is at the core of what Ozswoosh is about, coaching education, including this channel. So if you haven't checked it out or it's your first time here, then please make sure you check out the content. Don't forget, if you like anything I shared here or want to comment, you can leave a comment in the comment section below. As always, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed what you saw here. And if you haven't yet subscribed, but you continue to watch content on my channel, then the kindest thing you can do to reward me for the efforts and time and energy and money that goes into producing this content is to hit that subscribe button right now and the notification bell so that you can get advised when new videos get uploaded, which we are planning a new video shoot for later in the year for new content, as well as these live streams, so you can be notified when I go live. With that, I want to say thanks for being here. Take care, and I'll catch you later until the next one.